boys and girls. It's me, Mrs. Bedtimer. Did you enjoy your week? Oh, I missed you guys. Oh, was it exciting? Great. Did you read any books over the week? Oh, good. So you know what we're going to do today? We're going to continue with my book of Bible stories. Oh, I love this book. Are you enjoying this? I hope that you are. Last week we read about Joseph. We were reading about Joseph, and I think he was in prison. So this week, and he was telling the cupbearer and the baker about, with the help of God, he was telling them, you know, what their dreams meant. And he asked the cupbearer that when he got released from prison to tell Pharaoh about him, but the cupbearer forgot. So Joseph is still in jail. So now we're going to pick up where we left off. It's called Pharaoh's Dream. And that's Pharaoh sleeping there. Are you ready? Are you comfy and cozy? Got your PJs on, your nightgowns. Great. You got your doll baby, your stuffed animal, your favorite blanket. I have my favorite blanket. Good. Okay. Let us begin. Pharaoh's Dream. 2 years pass, and Joseph is still in prison. The cupbearer has not remembered him at all. Then one night, Pharaoh has two very special dreams, and he wonders what they mean. Do you see him sleeping there? The next morning, Pharaoh calls his wise men and tells them the things that he has dreamed. But they are not able to tell him the meaning of his dreams. Now the cupbearer at last remembers Joseph. He says to Pharaoh, when I was in prison, there was a man there who could tell the meaning of dreams. Pharaoh has Joseph brought out of prison right away. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream. I saw 7 fat, beautiful cows. Then I saw 7 very thin and bony cows. And then the thin ones ate up the fat ones. In my second dream, I saw 7 heads of full, ripe grain growing on one stalk. Then I saw 7 thin, dried out heads of grain. And the thin heads of grain began to swallow up the 7 good heads of grain. Joseph says to Pharaoh, the 2 dreams mean the same thing. The 7 fat cows and the 7 full heads of grain mean 7 years. And the 7 thin cows and the 7 thin heads of grain means 7 more years. There will be 7 years of a lot of food will grow in Egypt. Then there will be 7 years when very little food will grow. So Joseph tells Pharaoh, choose a wise man and put him in charge of collecting food during the 7 good years. Then the people will not starve the following 7 bad years when very little food will grow. Pharaoh likes the idea, and he chooses Joseph to collect the food and to store it up. Next to Pharaoh, Joseph becomes the most important man in Egypt. 8 years later, during the famine, Joseph sees some men coming. Do you know who they were? Can you guess who they were? I think it was his brothers. Let's see. Why? They are his 10 older brothers. Their father Jacob had sent them to Egypt because they were running out of food back home in Canaan. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Do you know why? It is because Joseph had grown older and he is dressed in a different kind of clothes. Joseph remembers that when he was a boy, he dreamed about his brothers coming to bow down to him. Do you remember reading about that earlier? Last week we read that. So Joseph can see that it is God who has sent him down to Egypt, and for a good reason. What do you think Joseph does? Let's see. Look at that. Joseph tests his brothers. That's Joseph's brothers right there. Joseph wants to know if his 10 older brothers are still mean and unkind. So he says, "You're spies. You have come to find where our country is weak." "No, we are not," they say. "We are honest men. We are all brothers. We were 12, but one brother is no more, and the youngest is home with our father." Joseph pretends not to believe them. He keeps the brother named Simeon in prison and lets the others take food and go home. But he tells them, "When you come back, you must bring your youngest brother with you." When they return home to Canaan, the brothers tell the father Jacob everything that happened. Jacob is very sad. "Joseph is no more," he cries, "and now Simeon is no more. I will not let you take my youngest son Benjamin." But when their food begins to run out, Jacob has to let them take Benjamin to Egypt so they can get more food. Now Joseph sees his brothers coming. He is very happy to see his younger brother Benjamin. Of course, none of them know that this important man is Joseph. Joseph now does something to test his 10 half-brothers. He has his servants fill up their bags with food, but without letting them know, he also has his special silver cup put into Benjamin's bag. After they all leave and have gone a little distance on the road, Joseph sends his servants after them. When they catch up with them, the servants say, "Why have you stolen our master's silver cup?" "We have not stolen his cup," the brothers all say. "If you find the cup with any of us, let that person be killed." So the servants search through all the bags, and they find the cup in Benjamin's bag, just as you see here. See? Right there. They pulled this silver cup out. The servants say, "The rest of you can go, but Benjamin must come with us." What will the 10 half-brothers do now? They all returned with Benjamin to Joseph's house. They didn't let him go. They went back with him. Joseph tells his brothers, "You can all go home, but Benjamin must stay here as my slave." Judah now speaks up and says, "If I go back home without the boy, my father will die, because he loves him so very much. So please keep me here as your slave, but let the boy go home." Joseph can see that his brothers have changed. They are not mean and unkind anymore. Let's find out what Joseph does. Look at that. Let's see what they're doing. The family moves to Egypt. Joseph cannot control his feelings any longer. He tells all of his servants to leave the room. When he is alone with his brothers, Joseph begins to cry. We can imagine how surprised his brothers are, because they do not know why he is crying. Finally, he says, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers are so surprised that they can't speak. They are afraid. But Joseph says, please come closer. When they do, he says, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Joseph continues to speak in a kind way. Do not blame yourselves because you sold me here. It was really God who sent me to Egypt to save people's lives. Pharaoh has made me the ruler of the whole country. So now, hurry back to my father and tell him this, and tell him to come and live here. Then Joseph throws his arms around his brothers and hugs and kisses them all. When Pharaoh hears that Joseph's brothers have come, he tells Joseph, let them take wagons and go get their father and their families and come back here. I will give them the best land in all Egypt. That is what they did. Here you can see Joseph meeting his father when he came to Egypt with his whole family. Jacob's family had become very big. Although they were 70 when they moved to Egypt, counting Jacob and his children and grandchildren, but there were also the wives and probably many servants too. These all settled in Egypt, and they were called Israelites because God had changed the name of Jacob to Israel. The Israelites became a very special people to God, as we will see later. Okay, so now we're moving on to Job. Job is faithful to God. You see how sick he is here? He has legions all over his body. Do you feel sorry for this sick man? His name is Job. And the woman is his wife. Do you know what she is saying to Job? She's telling him, curse God and die. Let's see why she would ever say a thing like that and why Job suffered so much. Job was a faithful man who obeyed Jehovah. He lived in the land of Uz, not far from Canaan. Jehovah loved Job very much. But there was someone who hated him. Do you know who it was that hated him? It was Satan, the devil. Remember Satan? He's the bad angel who hates Jehovah. He was able to get Adam and Eve to disobey Jehovah, and he thought he could get everybody else to disobey Jehovah too. But was he able to? No. Just think of the many faithful men and women we have learned about. How many can you name? Can you name a few that we learned about? Awesome. That's good. After Jacob and Joseph died in Egypt, Job was the person most faithful to Jehovah in all of the earth. Jehovah wanted to let Satan know that he could not get everyone to be bad. So he said, look at Job. See how faithful he is to me? He is faithful, Satan argued, because you blessed him and he has many good things. But if you take these away, he will curse you. So Jehovah said, go ahead, take them away. Do all the bad things you want to Job. We will see if he curses me. Only be sure that you do not kill him. First, Satan had men steal Job's cattle and camels, and his sheep were killed. Then he killed his 10 sons and daughters in a storm. Next, Satan struck Job with a terrible sickness. Job suffered very much. That is why Job's wife told him, curse God and die. But Job would not do it. Also, 3 false friends came and told him he had lived a bad life. But Job kept faithful. This made Jehovah very happy, and afterwards he blessed Job, as you can see in the picture. He healed him from his sickness. Job had 10 more beautiful children and twice as many cattle and sheep and camels as he had before. Will you always be faithful to Jehovah like Job? If you are, God will bless you too. You will be able to live forever when the whole earth will be made just as pretty as the Garden of Eden. A bad king rules Egypt. Look at that. So they're working. What's happening here? Let's see. These men here are forcing the people to work. Look at the man who is hitting one of the workers with a whip. The workers are of the family of Jacob and are called Israelites. And the men forcing them to work are Egyptians. The Israelites have become slaves of the Egyptians. How did this happen? For many years, Jacob's big family lived at peace in Egypt. Joseph was one of the most important men in Egypt next to Pharaoh, the king, who took care of them. But then Joseph died. And a new Pharaoh who did not like the Israelites became king of Egypt. So this bad Pharaoh made the Israelites slaves. And he put men in charge of them who were mean and cruel. They forced the Israelites to work very hard building cities for Pharaoh, but still the Israelites kept growing in numbers. After a while, the Egyptians became afraid that the Israelites would become too many and too strong. Do you know what Pharaoh did? He took the women who helped the Israelites' mothers when they gave birth to their babies and said, "You must kill every baby boy that is born." But these were good women, and they would not kill the babies. So Pharaoh gave the command to all his people, "Take the baby Israelite boys and kill them. Only let the baby girls live." Wasn't that a terrible thing to command? Let's see how one of the baby boys was saved. How baby Moses was saved. See the little baby crying and holding onto the lady's finger? This is Moses. Do you know who the pretty lady is? She is an Egyptian princess, Pharaoh's own daughter. Moses' mother hid her baby until he was 3 months old because she didn't want him to be killed by the Egyptians. But she knew that Moses might be found, so this is what she did to save him. She took a basket and fixed it so that no water would leak in. Then she put Moses into it and placed the basket in the tall grass along the Nile River. Moses' sister Miriam was told to stand nearby and see what would happen. Soon Pharaoh's daughters came down to the Nile River to bathe. Suddenly she saw the basket in the tall grass. She called to one of her servant girls, "Go get the basket for me." When the princess opened the basket, what a beautiful baby she saw. Little Moses was crying, and the princess felt sorry for him. She didn't want to have him killed. Then Miriam came up. She's his sister. She came up. Miriam asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call an Israelite woman to nurse the baby for you?" "Please do," the princess said. So Miriam ran quickly to tell her mother. When Moses' mother came to the princess said, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So Moses' mother took care of her own child and got paid for it. Later, when Moses was old enough, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. That is how Moses came to grow up in the house of Pharaoh. And we're going to stop there for this evening. And When we come back, we're going to talk about why Moses ran away. That was good. Very interesting, right? Okay, so before we go, you know what we do? We have to say our prayers. I'm sleepy. Are you sleepy? I'm sleepy. Repeat after me. Down I lay me, down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And this I pray in Jesus' name. God bless everyone. Boys and girls, thank you so very much for reading with me this evening. Until next week, I'm Mrs. Bedtimer. Stay sweet, stay kind, be your unique you, and read throughout the week until we meet again. I love you all. Mwah!